Hey guys, what's happening? So we're back for part 3 of the Ultimates. And in this one, we learn more about Dr. Banner's past, where as it would seem, he never really was a nice person. And on top of that, we also get the introduction to this world's She-Hulk. So with that said, if you're enjoying these videos, make sure to drop a like, subscribe, and don't forget to hit that bell up top to get all notifications. Alright, so jumping in, this takes us to the Pacific Proving Grounds at Bikini Atoll, back when the Banner of Earth 6160 was caught in the Gamma explosion and became the Hulk. And with how this is done, we're told that this test bombing was under a project called Castle Gamma, which is this world's version of the real-life Castle Bravo project from 1946. But in this flashback, we're shown a nearby island whose inhabitants were bathed in 80 million tons of radioactive fallout, which for the most part came to them as pulverized coral, water, and gamma particles that fell from the sky in a fine snow-like powder, causing 459 men and women to be exposed to the radiation, making this island the most gamma concentrated area on Earth. And there's more that we learn about this through a document that we're shown that has a bunch of names redacted, but we'll talk more about some of those details in a little bit. Because from here, the next thing we do is make our way to the modern day, with Iron Lad, Thor, and Sif, who've made their way here to what is now called Monster Island. But also, they've come here with Tony hoping to find a Hulk army, because at this point, with the recruiting that they've done, the Ultimates still don't have an answer to Bruce Banner. And as soon as they arrive here, Tony notices the gamma readings are off the charts. And on top of that, whatever they landed on with the Bifrost, it was much larger than the average lizards that are supposed to be on this island, that naturally should be about the size of a salamander. And not long after this, they're met by a Tyrannosaurus Hulk. And as soon as Tony sees it, he's like, yeah, that's definitely not supposed to be a thing. Though fortunately for him, he brought along Thor and Sif, who have a lot of experience fighting giant serpents and things that shouldn't exist. So as a result, 1 minute later, this huge lizard is done, which makes sense because you would imagine that they would be able to handle something like this. Though at the same time, Tony, he's not cool with them just killing it. And part of that goes towards Tony's curiosity about this place, because no one's really known about this monster island, because Banner had this place removed from every map, and he's gone through insane measures to make sure that this island wasn't reachable by normal means. So for Tony, everything he's seeing here is for the first time, and he's intrigued by it. But as they continue to make their way, Thor makes a comment to Sif about her hovering over him to make sure he's in good health. And Sif's like, I'm not hovering. So Tony tells her, look, no, you're literally hovering. Your feet are not touching the ground. And it makes for a moment for what you might see in a game where it would say something like, Sif will remember that. All because you chose the wrong dialogue option. But going forward, they continue to see more strange gamma creatures, like a man-eating plant and a fascinating huge crab which Tony goes to take a look at. But while he's holding it, the thing gets cut in half, as a consequence of Tony getting on Sif's bad side. So again, Tony reiterates his concern about them killing anything they come across here. And he tells them that they shouldn't, because pretty much everything here is like one of a kind. So every kill is a potential extinction event. And mind you, while they're having this conversation, there's a hulking creature that's heading their way. But with Tony warning them about killing everything, and telling them how every death could be an extinction event, Thor ends up making more sense here, because he tells Tony that he misunderstands the nature of this island. It's more than merely wild. This is a mad, poisoned place, a place at war with itself. It would destroy us if it could. But really, neither of them are wrong about this, because none of them know how crazy this place is. Not yet. But a lesson comes really quick when that hulking figure arrives, because this thing just shows up with a 3-hit combo, stomping Thor's head, uppercutting Tony, and just clapping Sif, with no warning whatsoever. And when they go to fight this thing, it holds its own pretty well. But before they get down to it, Sif asks Tony if this is what he's looking for. But it leaves him at a loss for words because he's not really sure if this thing can be reasoned with. And he's not given the time to come to that conclusion before it attacks again. And in more ways than one, this attack, it ends up challenging the whole idea of whether or not they should kill whatever creature they're attacked by on this island. Because not before long, when Thor regains the upper hand and he gets ready to strike this thing down, he tells Iron Lad like, hey, looks like we about to have another extinction. But before he does, someone yells, stop, which right here gives us the introduction of LaJory, who introduces herself as the protector of this atoll and everything on it. So Tony quickly goes for the de-escalation route because he just wants to talk. So she steps down and she calms the Gamma monster, which as it turns out was a baby this whole time. And I tell you, man, the look on Thor's face when he's like, whoa, I almost struck a baby with lightning. And it just goes back to the conversation of whether or not they should kill anything out here, which I mean, the answer is clearly no, because they really have no idea what some of these gamma mutates truly are. And following this, next we find out that LaJory is the same little girl we saw who was here when the fallout began. So she takes them back to her village while telling them she remembers when this all started, when Dr. Banner came, offering her people money, houses, medicine, protection, in exchange for using their land for the bomb tests, while promising after they were done, they would clean up after themselves and everything would go back to normal. But as it turned out, her people did not believe him, so they didn't leave. And Dr. Banner's team dropped the bombs anyway, leaving LaJory and her people to live in the fallout. And as they make their way back to the village, Tony says, "So there are others like you. I knew it. Don't you see? This could change the balance of world power. An Incredible Hulk army." So she tells him, yes, there are more of us. Come and see. Here, your Hulk army. And as soon as they see the people of this village, the look on Tony's face is just like, man, this is not what I expected. Because for the most part, the gamma mutations that took place, they're tragic. Because for example, you have one of the locals here named Tara, who feels everything. The most gentle breeze is agony for her. So with a bit of sarcasm, LaJory tells Tony like, yeah, hand Tara a gun. Holding it will be torture to her. So then she turns to the next and she tells him this is sorry. He cannot speak or feed himself. We think he got lost in his own big thoughts. He gives no indication that he understands or even sees us. Do you think he will be good for following orders? And next she tells them they already met Abram. He's the youngest, still a baby. But when he gets upset, well, we know how that looks. And as it turns out, in a tragic course of events, Abram caught a tantrum and killed his mother. But LaJory goes on to say that he's innocent. How could he understand what he did? What will he do when he's old enough to understand? And Abram's a rare case of anyone here having children, because for the most part, people here are afraid of what their child may become. And on top of that, this isn't quite the place to raise a child anyway, because much like the people, the land is also infected with gamma radiation. So that includes any food that might be grown from the land, the drinking water, which they still consume, though it burns going down. So right here, Tony tells her, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to be insensitive. But you show a level of self-control that Banner only achieved with years of guidance from the greatest psychologists, spiritualists, and mystics in the world. You're smart and strong like he is. So LaJory tells him there's no guarantee what the radiation will do to an individual, because most people it'll kill or weaken, and there's very few that it makes strong. There's no sense or reason to any of it, no justice. So Tony's like, yes, that's what we're fighting for. But before he can tell her who they are, she stops him mid-sentence like, I know who you are. The Ultimates. Terrorists. Which she knows because the TVs still work, and that's how they learned English. So Tony just gets to the point and he tells her, we need you in this war. But she believes her people have suffered enough for other people's wars. But Thor and Sif tell her this is everyone's war, especially for her and her people. So next, Tony's like, what if we helped you? Suggesting that he moves her somewhere, but even still, this is their ancestral land, and her people would rather die here than live anywhere else. And aside from that, Banner would never allow it. So Tony asks, how could you do nothing? Doesn't this make you angry? And she's just like, angry. Have you ever seen someone die from gamma poisoning, Iron Lad? It's a slow, painful death, full of confusion, rage, and change. We've seen it hundreds of times. I've watched foul mouths with crooked yellow teeth grow on my mother's body. I saw my father sprout feathers and attempt to escape into the sky. And she later goes on to tell him, angry. We were born into the wounded belly of the world. You can't imagine my anger. What has been done to us is an abomination, but I won't allow you to use our anger. We have been used enough. You want my strength? You want my rage? Then you'll have to pay for it. And she tells Tony she wants him to fix her land and make it like it was before the bombs. And if he does that, she'll show him strength. Which at first, this has Tony thinking like, man, this is going to be a huge undertaking, because for starters, you got to scrape the topsoil of the whole island. He'd have to drop tons of potassium fertilizers brought over with repeated applications, and do all of this without Banner noticing. So she tells him again, that's her price. Fix the island. And right here, Sif even reminds Tony that he said in the beginning he wants to fix the world, which I mean is precisely what this would be doing. So Tony reaches out, he shakes LaJory's hand, then they have an agreement. And as soon as this happens, we find out that Dr. Banner has been watching. So he calls to assemble the immortal weapons because these ultimates are starting to make him angry. And to be honest, I really hope he does get angry, because all we've seen at this point is the calm version of this guy. And I mean, with the exception of one brief moment, but I'm just hoping to see either a flashback or a relapse sometime soon. And so now real quick, I want to give a special shout out to all the patrons. Thank you guys for all of your support. And for anyone who's new here, who wants more information on how to support the channel, I got a link below where you can go to patreon.com/DopeSpill. But that'll do it for this one, guys. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below, and we'll do it again on the next one. Alright, later.